So we are going to sharpen up our chisel, and I call this a moose hair method because it doesn't require any jig, no angle guide, you don't have to hold it flat. And we're going to utilize a box store chisel. I'm using an Irwin that you can buy for, I don't know, 12 bucks, something like that. You don't need a fancy timber framing chisel. We're going to show you how to make this nice and sharp so that you can use it for timber framing. First up, we'll talk about the supplies that we need for this operation. You can see I've got Windex and paper towel. I'll show you what we use those for. I've got a 1-inch Irwin chisel that's from the box store. I think I bought it from a local box store. I've got a stone, and it needs a rough side and a fine side. This one is 400 on one side and 1,000 on the other. And what's nice is this big rubber base that keeps that nice and stable for us. If you need a stone, you can find that on our Amazon storefront. Marker, I'll show you what that's for. And then a strop. And a strop is simply a piece of leather glued to a piece of wood, and then we charge it with compound, and this is the green charging compound. So if we take a look at this chisel, it comes with a grind, but any chisel that you get really needs to be initialized. That includes a higher end timber framing chisel. And if you take a close look at this one, it looks to me like it has a little bit of a hollow grind that was maybe put in, or maybe that's just how it was machined. But this is just a very basic chisel, and we're going to sharpen this up. So in a nutshell, the moose hair method is put some Windex on your stone, tip it up, start on the heel, tip it up until you get a Windex scoosh, and you'll see it coming out. You know that's the factory flat. Tip it up a moose hair and pull the tip off, pull it towards you, rotate through the factory flat, and then go to the tip. And the heel should be up a moose hair on the tail end of the stroke. And you're just going to continue that operation starting on the 400. We will continue that operation until we can feel a burr right across the back here. We're going to build up that burr, and then we're going to flip this over and use the stone to remove that burr. And now that burr is off. I've done the moose hair sharpening on the 400, and I'm going to switch this over to the 1000 side. On the 1000 side, it's the same thing. I'm going to give it a little shot of Windex. And I do really love these rubber bases because it just holds that in place nicely. It took a lot of years to find that one, and again, it's on our Amazon storefront. So first step on the 1000 is a Windex scoosh. When it scooshes, you know you're at the factory flat. Tip it back a moose hair, pull towards you through the factory to the tip. And you just repeat that operation, and you're looking to, you're going to complete that operation, and you're going to stay at it until you actually raise a burr on this side. So you're going to feel right back here, and you're going to continue this until you actually feel a burr on the back side. That tells you that you're getting right to the tip. It doesn't take a lot to do it, but you have to put a little bit of pressure on here. Not a whole lot, and it's just a gentle arc. So up a moose hair, through the factory flat, and then to the tip, and your heel should be up a moose hair. So it starts tip up a moose hair, factory flat, heel up a moose hair. And that's and as you figure that operation out, you can actually go a little bit faster. And then once you feel, okay, I got a burr, and that burr comes all the way across, and it's relatively consistent, I'm going to take this, flip it over, and remove that burr from the back side. So that step is the honing. And once the honing is done, we can put our square aside, or we put our stone aside, and we're going to get our strop. And a strop does some polishing, and what we have here is some green polishing compound. And what I'm going to do with that is just kind of color it on like a color crayon. You just want to make sure that the leather portion is charged. If you need a strop, just take a piece of leather, glue it to a board, and get yourself some green polishing compound. We do have strops and the green compound indicated on our Amazon storefront if you're interested in that. So for stropping, we're gonna pull towards us as we strop. We don't want to push into it because you'll end up cutting your strop. Piece of leather, charged up. In this case, I have it clamped down to keep it in place. You could put it in a vice clamp and keep it that way. My sharpening station at the shop has, this is actually screwed to the workbench. And stropping is just polishing. So I'm simply using that same motion and just polishing up that edge that I just put on there. And I put that, using the stone is honing, and this is actually polishing. And we just want to polish that edge up. And, 10, 20, 30 strokes, maybe that's probably a good spot to, probably maybe the sweet spot. And as you're polishing it up, you can see that this tip here is actually getting polished up and a little bit on the heel. As we go through the factory flat, there's not a whole lot happening there. We just want to continue to polish that. And then once it's polished, now you're not going to raise a burr on this. While you're polishing, there's no burr. You're just going to go to the back side and polish the back side. So front, same motion, basically start on the heel, rock it through and hit the tip. Back, you pull it this way. And then as we're seeing, you can see right here, that edge is actually pretty highly polished and it's starting to come across on the back side. You can see that it's a little uneven in the middle, and that's a factor of the grind of the chisel. These aren't precision ground because they're right from the hardware store. But as long as that comes across and it's nicely polished on the front, you're in very good shape. Now the question becomes, how sharp is sharp enough? So I've got a 2x4 that I just cut off, and right here is the end grain. You can see the end grain. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my chisel and I'm going to just shave that end grain. And it should shave it right off. So it shaves off the end grain, and when I feel that end grain, that should be nice and smooth. So the chisel will shave end grain, and it leaves a smooth surface on there. I know my chisel is plenty sharp to do whatever operations I might want to do with my chisel, and that's going to work for timber framing. So one tip that works very well for sharpening, and I use it a lot in all the different types of sharpening that we do, I'm just going to take the marker and I'm going to mark the surface I want to sharpen. And I'm going to let that dry. And what that's going to do is that's going to give me a guide and tell me if I'm sharpening properly. And that way I can develop the muscle memory that I need to sharpen correctly. And if I'm off base a little bit, this will show me that I'm off base. So here's a chisel that I sharpened, or I put some marker on a little bit earlier. And so if I'm pulling my chisel here, and let's just say I pull it this direction. So I'm using my moose hair method. But now when I look at my chisel, you can see right here, I'm starting to come across, but there's nothing on the tip. So I'm tipping it up a moose hair to get this portion, but I'm not coming through the flat and doing the front. So then I can adjust my technique. I find the flat, Windex scoosh, tip it up a moose hair, bring it through, find the flat, up, bring it through, and then just continue that motion. So now if you look at the end of my chisel, you can see that I'm coming across the front, I'm coming across the back, and there's just a little lightness where I went through the factory flat. You can see it's not really parallel across there, and that's in general due to the grind. And the grind that comes on these chisels is not very not super accurate, not super precise. I don't really need to worry about it as long as this tip right here, as long as I'm hitting the tip, and that's relatively straightforward across. So that's it. That's the moose hair method for sharpening. It is somewhat similar to the methodology that Paul Sellers utilizes. It's somewhat similar to the unicorn method that was published in Popular Woodworking. It's a little bit different, and what you're doing is on the tip, you're making that tip just a little bit convex. It's not full-on convex, which we'll talk a little later on related to timber framing chisels and different types of grinds. But this grind, as long as you can cut an end grain and get a smooth cut, it's going to work just perfect for the projects that we have coming up. So get yourself a box store chisel, get yourself a sharpening stone, a strop, and sharpen it up so you're prepared to move on to the next step, which is cutting your first joint.